This episode of St. James's Pod is brought to you by Total Supplements. Visit their website, totalsupplements.co, to discover their range of nutritionist-tested supplements, gummies, shakes, and natural extracts. From popular sports supplements like whey protein, creatine, vitamin tablets, and powders, to mental health supplements such as nootropics and mushrooms, they've got you totally covered. They also have men's health collection offering testosterone support and beauty supplements to keep you looking like your absolute best. I personally use Total Supplements products, and I have been using them from before they came on board to sponsor the podcast, so I'm hugely excited to be partnering with a brand that I know and love. So whether you train hard, work hard, or take an active interest in your overall health, use our code stjames'pod, that's stjamespod, for 25% off your entire order. The link's in the description. Support the podcast and visit totalsupplements.co now and tell them St. James's Pod sent you. And we're back. Welcome to St. James's Pod. In this week's episode, we are previewing the AC Milan game as they come to St. James's Park, which will determine our European fate for this season. It is a massive game for Newcastle United, and it should be a quality game for all the supporters. It should be an amazing atmosphere, and it should be a game that we can win. So we're going to go over that, as well as the last two games, which have not been wins, unfortunately, not been great performances. Had a bit of a spanking in the last two, and we'll dive straight into that. With Alex, I'll come to you first, because obviously we've kind of been chatting on the group chat, and I know Tom's feeling quite pessimistic after those two results. So I'll come to you first, Alex, see how you're feeling after that. What's your general feelings?
I'm not as bad as Tommy Dido fingers over here waving the white flag. But yeah, it's been a rough few games, and there's not been pretty much nothing to shout about, bar a few potential injured players coming back. But yeah, some Everton thoroughly outplayed, deserved to lose, and exactly the same at the weekend. I know there's been a recurring theme with these away games, and people are attributing it, some of it down to fatigue, some down to injuries, but we need to flip things up, because we can't keep going on with this kind of form away from home. I think we're bottom 5 in the league with our home form this season. So I know it's not an Eddie Howe thing or a long-term thing, because we have got plenty of results in the last season especially. But it's grim viewing, and not only did we get heavily beaten, we fully deserved it in both games. So yeah, you can understand why Page's got these kind of glass half empty feeling for a little bit, but we can look forward to Milan, a home game under the lights, a few players coming back.
That's
not fault to me, not empty. But Paige, I don't know what you think, but I think things could be looking up despite the recent results.
Have you feel more positive since you've had some time to digest after that result?
No, I have. I think I did get a little bit carried away. Just for context, I went off on a little bit of a dramatic sort of feeling that this next few weeks we could be out of every competition apart from the FA Cup. I didn't go as far as saying the FA Cup. I just said the Europe and the League Cup, and be falling away from the European places in the league. I admit that was probably a little bit dramatic. I went a little bit too far. I think that was just a reaction to how some of those goals, I think it was the second for Spurs, and I just felt like I just couldn't. It's just hard to watch right now, because the players are better. That the legs, the mental sort of fatigue that some of the players are going through. I mean, we'll go straight to it. Kieran Trippier needs a rest. He's going to get a rest after this Milan game because of his suspension, and good for him, because I think just looking at him in the Everton game and the Spurs game, he's one of those players. He's the oldest outfield player that we've got, and he just looked every bit of that at times towards the end of the Everton game, and Son just sort of had him on toast for most of that game against Spurs. So yeah, I think he's not just the only one. There's other people who've had their moments as well, but it's just starting to just be difficult to watch more because you know that there's so much more from the players when they've had sufficient rest and time to rotate and everything else. But the amount of games are stacking up, and we're just asking so much of them. I can't fault them at all. They're trying their best. It's just one of these situations that I can't even remember the last time we've been in a position where we've had the amount of injuries we've got, coupled with the increased fixture list that we've got with Europe as well. It's just one of them perfect storms, which is finally caught up with us. I know we managed really well to get results against Chelsea and Man U, at home. With all, as Dawes was saying, our home form, can't fault that. But these away games, like there is something else going on there. I think much more deeper rooted than the current issues we've got with injuries and stuff. I think Eddie needs to go back to the drawing board, I think, for how we approach those games. But yeah, it's just been tough those last two games to watch because we've been so used to a much more higher, energetic, and more quality performance than the one that we've seen in those last two games.
Yeah, do you think with the away form it could just be something as simple as the fatigue is harder to get over when you're playing away from home because you've got the travel and you don't have the crowd to kind of spur you on and give you that extra 10%?
I think there's a domino effect, like with like injuries, fatigue, a lot. I think, like as Paige said, the way we're playing is different. We're not as intense. We don't press as high up the field. We give them a bit more time on the ball. I think if Eddie could play the way that we'll play at home, I think he would go for it a bit more. But I think both the amount of games we can't rotate and the injuries means that we physically can't press like we do at home. Like for not even for 60 minutes because like the players, as you've seen like on Thursday and Sunday, they're out on the feet for like the second half. Like, so it is having an effect. And people might say, "Oh yeah, Eddie Howe's playing this style of football," but we physically can't play it like how we want to play it all of the time because like they're only human after all. And like if we did, like imagine getting even more injuries to the first team as we're literally bare bones as it is. So I think like we're sacrificing that like high press, high intensity for maybe trying to preserve some kind of legs or injuries or whatever going forward. It's just a horrible balance, like we're having to basically do through. I wouldn't say no fault of our own, but like the injuries have came from playing this way.
Yeah, I think you could definitely tell in that Everton game that, and I would say the first half was an even game. We matched them for their intensity. It was a bit sloppy and everything else, but it was definitely an even game. At half time, I felt, despite Calvert-Lewin having an absolute sitter that he blazed over, but Isak also had a very decent opportunity that he could have got on target. But then, as the second half started, you could just tell, like, trying to get the legs going again, trying to keep that press going and try to play some of our football. We just reverted back and like defensively just sort of we slipped back a little bit, and Everton that pushed on and the first goal came in the 79th minute, but I felt like they were definitely.
Well, like.
It was a gift, but it was coming. There was a goal coming for Everton, I think, as soon as the second half started for me. I know Gordon had a couple of chances that he would have wished he could have had back again, but I felt Everton at the start of the second half definitely were the more dominant side, and it pains me to say deserved to get a goal. I mean, the way it came was horrible, and then the second one just compounded it even more. And that's the mental fatigue, like I'm talking about with Trippier. Like he's the first one, you can tell he's trying to look across field, looking for the pass, and he's then just lost all kind of control of what he's doing with his feet, and just takes an awful touch that just then. And McNeil, to be fair to him, he was, that's the Everton's press worked really well in that case. Like, he was straight onto it, and then great finish. But then the second one was just compounded it, and you could just tell, like, Trippier wanted the floor to just swallow him up at that point. And then the third was, I mean, people trying to blame Trippier on the third. It's a very, very narrow onside call. Like, I don't think Trippier's at fault in any way on that one. But yeah, and then into the Spurs game, it was more of the same, really. And Spurs are like, they were coming off the back of some awful results. They needed a pick up result, and we were the perfect team for them.
Yeah.
I felt like for them to get that.
Yeah, I think with the Trippier thing as well, that when you're talking about his mental fatigue and stuff, I think as well, people don't really give enough credit to the other players' physical fatigue, because you can see he's looking for the pass and the pass isn't on. So like, normally when we're at our best, he'll have like two options and he just has to play one. He didn't really have a pass on, and it's like obviously he still miscontrols the ball and like it is his fault, but the other players weren't like given as much at that point either. So like, I feel like you do have to give him like a break slightly, because the rest of the players aren't like given as much option as normal due to their fatigue as well. So it is more of like a team fatigue that you're starting to see definitely in the second half, and that definitely plays into the Spurs game as well, because even though they go ahead, normally like when we go behind, I'm not that worried, because I know like we're strong like right up to the 90th minute or 98th minute, whatever. And they, like, Spurs have been in this rut where they score first and then they still end up losing. But you knew in this game, like, if they scored first, there's no way we were going to come back in that second half and have the legs to capitalise like these other teams have. So it kind of was just, it was all downhill once they scored. But I have to say, like, they did play well, and like even Richarlison, like, looked good in that game. He was not, obviously had quite a poor run at Spurs. He looked more physical. He looked like he wanted it more. So I think, it's even players like Fabian Schär. He's had a bad couple of games. Like, his passing's just been off. So when there's a few players at once, it's tough, because even when you have a couple of good performances, like you'd say probably Joe Linton played well against Spurs, it's like it's not enough. Like, you can't really carry the whole team when there's so much fatigue out there. But I think one player that we're going to have to really talk about is Martin Dubravka, because he obviously comes in after Nick Pope's injury against Man U. And you mentioned Calvert-Lewin obviously missed a brilliant chance, which was a let-off for him. But then McNeil's, you said, like, what a good finish that was. And Alex, I know you kind of mentioned that you felt he should have done better. And I've got to say, like, watching it back, I know it's not his fault, he's not as big as Nick Pope, but I feel like Pope probably gets at least a hand to that.
That's the thing, like, at the first time of viewing, you're thinking, oh, like, he's done well, he's put it right in the corner. But watching back, it's went a bit more central in the goal. Like, it's like Dubravka, like, you think he just could get something on it, like flip the ball over the bar, get something like out at all, but he doesn't even get close to it. And then obviously there was like, you can see it clearly he's a lot better with his feet than Pope. Like, there's no doubt about it. He can take the ball in his box and he'll happily take a few touches, and you're a bit more confident that you'll find a man, basically. But his keeping, as like, I thought he'd be enough for us to go into January and not buy another keeper, but I know maybe shouldn't judge him on just 2 appearances, but they've been poor, and there's been multiple occasions where he's been not at fault, but Pope would have saved or done better with shots. Like Richarlison's second, when the ball comes over the top and he's in no man's land. Like,
Yeah.
that's as bad as goalkeeping gets, really. Like, he's got to make a decision one way or another to come out and try and punch it or something like that, or stay in your goal. Like, you can't be caught like halfway between. And Richarlison doesn't even take a good touch. He takes a bit of a heavy touch, like out wide, which is lucky for him because he almost rounds Dubravka because, again, he's in no man's land. So I don't know about yous, but I reckon going into January, I know it's judging off 2 games. We'll see what happens in the next couple, but I reckon we could do with upgrading at the goalkeeper position if we've got the funds, I guess.
Yeah, or definitely get another short-term sort of fixing like we've had done with Karius. And yeah, he looked like a League Two goalkeeper at times, in that, especially in that Spurs game.
Fucking hard.
I mean, I know, but look, you see them sort of mistake, like being caught out like that. That's not Premier League. Like, I'm sorry, but you don't see that. But like, I know he's had a long time sitting on the bench waiting for his chance and everything. You can forgive some rustiness, but like for a player of his experience and yeah, he's still an international #1 goalkeeper as well. He shouldn't be making them mistakes for me. And yeah, the penalty incident as well. He just didn't look right at all. And it's a big step. I know it's a big step down from Pope, anybody who was trying to say that Pope wasn't a top 3 goalkeeper in the Premier League can definitely now look at over the last 2 games we've had and how big a miss he is. That, yeah, I think Pope deservedly can be categorised in that top 3 for me. He would have made a difference in those games for sure. And yeah, it's a huge miss. Whether or not we then give Dubravka another game, see how it goes, and then if all else fails, we've got Karius to come in and give him a bit of a run. I know he only really had that one opportunity last season in the cup, which, you know, we can't really fault him too much for the cup final. But yeah, I think if we're gonna cough up all these sort of chances regularly because of the fatigue that the defence have, we need to have someone we trust in goal to be able to make the big saves. And right now, like Dawes said there, I'm not too sure I could trust Dubravka for the rest of the season. And yeah, there's De Gea still without a club. If we would we make a move there on a short-term contract, or is he asking for too much? I don't know, but there's definitely a case to make of bringing in somebody, at least in a 6-month loan deal capacity for me.
Yeah, it's tough after just 2 games, but yeah, he's obviously not been great. And I do think it's strange that we've not seen more Karius, but I saw like some of the training footage recently. I think it was must have been ahead of the Spurs game, and the keepers were passing the ball, doing drills, and I was surprised at how bad he looked with his feet. Karius,
Not another one.
Thought, yeah, for some reason, I don't know if it's just because of the way he looks. I thought he'd look better with his feet. But he actually looked the worst out of the lot. Even Mark Gillespie was controlling the ball better. So, I mean, it was just a short clip, so it could have just been, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know about bringing in like De Gea or something. To be honest, he's probably the only one, like the only option out there, unless we go in like we move the goalkeeper buying forward and we go for a young keeper who's going to become our #1. which I don't imagine we would do in January. He's probably the only one that's like high enough level that we could realistically get in on a loan. But I still don't know with his rust and like how he looked at the end of last season, whether it's worth unsettling the squad for the amount of upgrade he'll be on the Bravka. So it'll be interesting to see what we do. But yeah, I imagine Eddie will stick with the Bravka and certainly play him at home against AC, because like as well, we're judging them on these two games and they have both been away games where the team's playing pretty poorly. So get the defence more solid in front of him and he might not be flapping as much as well. So although that works both ways, maybe the defence have been a bit more shaky because of the keeper situation. I don't know. But I think at the other end of the pitch, we do need to kind of talk about the lack of accuracy in front of goal, because even against Everton, we could have had a totally different game had our finishing been better. And even when you look back to Man U, which was a fantastic performance, we still only managed one goal. And we had like an abundance of chances. We could have had 5 or 6. So he's worried at all about our finishing at the minute and whether that could potentially be what is giving us even worse fatigue, because we're not getting ahead enough for Eddie to be confident in making the subs and bringing the kids on. When we've got the chances, we're just not taking them.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the Gordon chance. He had a couple, and yeah, never really looked like troubling Pickford in the Everton game. I don't know if like the Everton game, I was watching him obviously because of the connection there with his old club and being back at Goodison, and I know last season he did come off the bench towards the end of that game, but didn't really make much of a difference. But this was his chance to like start the game against them and really show the Everton fans who gave him a load of stick that he is the informed player that he is. And I'm not sure if you guys agree, but I could see he was having little smiles to the crowd. Obviously, there's definitely things being shouted at him. Not sure whether or not he was able. That kind of distracted him a little bit, and he just wasn't at his sharp best that he has been in recent games running up to that. But yeah, he did seem a little bit, and I didn't think that he would be. I think he comes across as a player who doesn't look as though he would let things get under his skin, but I don't know if like you guys think otherwise. But I think the Everton game especially felt as though he did.
I think it was Paddy that I seen tweet saying like he's getting booed every time he touches the ball, so you should be pretty comfortable in that after playing for Everton for a couple of years. All the boos. But I think I probably disagree to an extent. Like when he came in, we knew him as quite an emotional guy. Like he leaves his heart on the pitch, and he can get like a bit like caught up in the moments sometimes. And like he was getting pelters every time he touched the ball, so I reckon it might have got in his head, as you say. And like he had the one effort from outside the box, which was like a terrible effort, and then he had the one where the ball got pinched, and he was 1-on-1 from about 18 yards, and again he misses the target, and that's when you seen him like sort of smiling to himself a bit. A man in form does a lot better with both them chances, and especially in a game where like Everton have been playing well defensively, those chances are going to be hard to come by, and he needs to do better. So, yeah, I reckon he could have done better with those chances. Like,
I think he was overthinking a bit too much. He was like too desperate to try and do something, and I think the crowd obviously then gets in his head a bit with like. He's like, I want to show these guys, like, and he snatches out a couple of chances, doesn't he? And then he's probably overthinking even, like, running with the ball, because he should have had Coleman all over the place. But I think with the smiling, though, like, I think that was probably just because he's he's having a bit of banter with the players that he used to like play with. So I don't think there's too much in that. I think like people can make too much of that. Like at the end of the day, like he would have been good friends with them, so he doesn't have to be a dickhead to them just because he's left. Do you know what I mean? So
Oh
I
yeah,
know
no.
we hate them and like with Pickford and stuff, but you imagine if you were playing with them, you'd probably have a decent camaraderie with them. So, do you want to mention anything on Pickford on his antics
Oh my
at the end of
god,
the game?
the guy
Because
gets.
like
He,
I have to agree with some of the comments I've seen online that we do give it, so you got to take it when he gives it back. Do you know what I mean?
oh, totally. Look, it's all like just part of the pantomime with it all, and he
Oh no,
gets
it
so.
isn't.
Oh, he, he gets so under my skin, like, but at the same time, like, it's all like you say, it's part of the banter, and like, yeah, I'll just love it, when he comes to St James's and he gets it even more, like, and hopefully as well we've knocked the Mackems out of the cup and we can give him some stick for that as well. So yeah, it's just so annoying when you see him doing the dive and like just
Oh,
like acting up to that and the crowd loving it, and yeah, it's just yeah, really annoying. It's right currently I feel like the closest we've got to like having a big rivalry like we do with the Mackems is Everton in the Premier League. Like I feel like there's this like same kind of
Yeah.
feeling between both sets of fans and stuff like that. So it just feels like it's just hard to accept. And then yeah, you can tell the players like just weren't having any of it. And I just hope that like our players like remember that for later in the season, and just know that like he's not going to get away with it that easily, and that we put in a really good performance and yeah, batter them at home. Like that's all I can hope that we can do, just to level things out a little bit and put Pickford back in his place.
you're talking about leveling things out. Like we've had a decent record against Everton lately, and he takes pelters every time we play them, whether it is home or away. So I think he's probably due to have like a little bite back when they do tank with a little bit. Like at first, like as you're saying, it like irritated us, but then I just thought like the amount of times we've like put plenty past him, home and away lately, we'll let him
Yeah.
have this one, and then as you're saying, back at home, like we'll slap the fuck out of him again. Like
T-Rex is
he'll
in the
get
crowd and all
yeah, oh yeah, it'll be the worst one yet, and I reckon the
that.
players will remember. Like Bruno and Joe Linton, they won't forget that. They'll be up for it.
Oh, 100%. The thing for me that was a bit like over the top was when he started throwing his gloves on the ground as if he was going to scrap and that. It's like, mate, you've obviously just, like, you know what you've just done, just laugh it off. Do you know what I mean?
Massive chov, man. He can't help himself.
I know, but
Nah, he is.
yeah, so let's move on to AC then. Let's look ahead, because I think even though we've been on like these last two games, a bad little run there, 2 games in a row, getting pretty much spanked. And there's a lot of fatigue. We played these games so quickly, like the Man U to Everton to Spurs, and now we'll go AC Milan. I do still feel like all of that just goes out the window for this game. It's like we are at home. It is like that important of a game, like how much the result determines what happens. It's almost like a cup final, which I know is a cliche, but I think it will be like that. And I do think, even though like you can't really just get over the fatigue, I just think it'll just, I don't know, like the players will work past it, especially with the crowd behind them. And the fact that we've got Sean and Callum back just gives us that little option off the bench or fresher legs to start the game. yeah, I feel way more positive about this than maybe not as positive as I did at the end of the Dortmund game or the PSG game. Sorry, because at the end of that I was like, we'll definitely beat AC at home. Now I'm a bit more like, it's going to be a tough game, but I still feel more confident than I do had it been another Premier League game. So, what about yourselves? Are you confident going into the game, or are you starting to get nervous now? Like, we're not far off it. Do you think we've got no chance at all, Tom? Pessimistic, Tom?
We're out, mate.
No.
We're gone.
No, we've got every chance. And yeah, like you say, it's a one-off game, and yeah, the lads, I don't know, like maybe they've had their eyes on this game more so than like we thought they might, and that might explain possibly the last two results, and that yeah, they could have even been reserving a little bit, knowing that this game was there coming up. Not saying that they would have, by any stretch, accepted the defeats in the manner in which we got them against Everton and Spurs, but I would feel as though I could forgive them if they were just holding a little back to go full 100% into this Milan game. They're coming into it, on the back of a defeat at the weekend. They've had one less game than us since they last played the Champions League game. They lost their last game going into this, so all right, yeah, they might have potentially fresher legs than us, but they're coming in off the back of a defeat as well. So yeah, there's all sorts of reasons to, and like you say, we've got a few players coming back. So yeah, we should. And I'm starting to come around to feeling a bit more positive than what I was maybe at 5:00 on Sunday evening. But yeah, look, we'll be well up for it, and it's going to be hopefully another special night under the lights, and whatever the outcome, just hopefully the lads leave it all out on the field, and that we come away with some form of European football into the new year.
Yeah, like we're a different type of gravy at home. Like I'm pretty confident that we'll at least get a result which will put us through to Europa League. Obviously, it's out of our hands whether we'll get through the Champions League or not, but Dortmund are a force at home, so I would not be surprised to see PSG drop points there. So, yeah, while it's not in our hands, I think we've got a good say in what we are doing in January when it comes to European competition. As you say, and fresh players coming back in. I think Longstaff could come back in. Obviously, had half an hour at the weekend. And it's just nice to have something that we can change it up front as well. We've had Miggy, Isak and Gordon playing every game, almost every minute, for weeks now. Yeah. We can't change games when we go down. So having Wilson as that other option, where that's like pushing a player out wide, or like Isak going out wide, Gordon coming through the middle like he did for a bit at the weekend. It's just nice to have some kind of option who, I mean, I'm not knocking them, but who aren't 18 years old and have barely had like a handful of like first team minutes. So it'll be rocking, and I'm proper looking forward to it now. I wouldn't say I'm nervous at all, to be honest. Like, whatever happens. If we do lose, then it's one of those things where it's not the worst thing in the world. We'll come back. But yeah, I think we will get a win, and I'm confident of that on Wednesday night.
Yeah, well, I thought Wilson looked great when he came on against Spurs, and like he's actually looked like so anonymous for like the last at least 2 games. I don't really remember if he did much against Man U either. But yeah, Wilson looked great when he came on, but I doubt he's going to start. I don't know, but it would be great to see him start for me. I think he'll thrive coming back in and under the lights at St James's Park in a Champions League game. Get our number 9 back up front, and you could potentially then see like Isak working off the left. You could put Gordon on the right, give Miggy like a chance to come off the bench or something, like just something different. Although I don't think Eddie Howe will do that. He does seem to have his trusted players that he likes to stick with in certain positions. So, do you think, Tom, that Miley will keep his starting spot, or do you think as soon as Longstaff is 100%, which he could be come Wednesday night, do you think he comes straight back in?
I think, one thing we have to say about Miley in the last 4 games or so that he's been involved, he's been absolutely amazing. Like, we've got such a special player on our hands. Like, he's looked so composed, and for a 17-year-old lad in the middle of the park, obviously we've talked about what he did in the Chelsea game and Man U game. He was immense again, and to be fair, I didn't think he did an awful lot wrong in the games against Everton and Spurs. He just looks neat and tidy, and his ability to pass and spray the ball around is very similar to Longstaff. So I don't particularly want to say that he would get, and actually as well, he's fatigue wise, I thought he looked quite fresh as well, fresher than some of them. Might just be his youth just like helping him out there, but I think he could just, he's still got a bit more in the tank. So I would like to see him start personally against Milan, and reward him again with another big Champions League game, because again he was immense in the PSG game last time out in this competition. So I don't think Sean should come straight in into the starting 11. I think Miley should keep it and then change it up a little bit in the second half.
See, like, I think you've just like convinced us round that Miley should start again, because like I was thinking, like, once Longstaff is back fit, he probably should be starting, because if you remember, like earlier in the season when he was out the team, we really struggled, and then literally like the first game back after he come back again, I can't remember what it was, but we looked like such a better side. But I guess that was before Miley really came through as an option, and he hasn't put a foot wrong. Like, he has looked like one of the fittest players. He's probably one of the only players, him and maybe Livramento, who look like they're not suffering from some kind of fatigue. So I think it would be harsh to take Miley out the squad. And also, Longstaff coming back from an injury, let him come back slowly. If Miley can start and he's feeling fit and ready to go, give Longstaff that little bit more recovery time to come back in as well. Even if he does come on again, last half an hour to give some reprieve for one of the Brazilian lads or something like that. Hopefully we'll be a couple of goals up by this point, so he can just put his foot on the ball and take it easy. Not that I'm getting ahead of myself, but no, I think you're probably right. And we know what Eddie Howe's like. He doesn't really try to change a lineup too much, unless there's sort of enforced changes or something like that, or someone's playing really badly. So for Miley to come out, I think it would be quite harsh on him as well. So yeah, I think, what are you thinking, the same like starting 11 again, like that we played for the last like 5-6 games? Well, outfield 10 anyways.
Well, and that's it. Like, the only thing, like Sam alluded to, is potentially bring Wilson in to start ahead of Isak, and
with his injury record, surely you don't want to rush him back either.
No, you don't. But I think in the way the game is going to need to be played, and I think you've kind of alluded to it as well, Dors, is that we're going to have to get at them early, knowing that the fatigue will set in the second half. Try and get quick couple of goals in the first half, and just get the crowd right on top of AC and just put them like under the pressure. And then second half, try and drop the tempo levels a little bit, and just do a bit of a backs to the wall job like we did against PSG. But we'd obviously know we need that couple of goal cushion to do that if that's the way it's going to go. So I think Wilson might be the better one to start, and then Isak to come on and just be a bit more of a defensive forward, potentially. Just and with the fact that he has looked not so clinical in the last few games, Wilson must be chomping at the bit to get a chance at the Gallagher and to put us ahead. I feel like, that would be the only thing I would see Eddie maybe changing up is that centre forward position, whereas everything else should likely stay the same.
Yeah, I feel like Wilson's like press is way better as well, and he holds the ball up way better than Isak does. He's a proper number 9, whereas Isak's not really. So I think if we're trying to get at them early doors and tire them out as much as we can at the start of the game, I think Wilson's definitely the better choice to start. But when you're saying like bring Isak on as a defensive forward, I think again Wilson's better at that. So you could argue you go with Isak to start. Hope he's just got his clinical boots on, and obviously he's way better at dribbling and stuff. So if we're playing that style of game, I don't really know what AC's defense is like in terms of, are we better off using strength, roughing them up a bit? I'd imagine with the Italian team, they're probably pretty strong. So,
they've got
Tamori at the back, man.
Tamori, who we're fairly familiar with his style of play and quality. He's a very good centre half. And last game out had Hernandez playing at centre half.
He's a left back usually, isn't he? So there's something we can get at maybe.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
To get Luke Shaw against Man U, so
yeah, true. I'm not sure why they had to enforce him as a centre half. And looking at their bench, they didn't have anyone that jumped out as a senior centre half on the bench. So maybe they're having a bit of a time with injuries as well in defence. But I can imagine this is going to be a physical game. At all ends of the pitch from an AC perspective. They've got Loftus-Cheek, Yunus Musa, in midfield who have been who we're familiar with again, and then if Giroud's the guy to go forward, and we know what his record's like against us as well, that he's going to give Lascelles and Cher a tough game as well from a physical perspective. So Milan are gonna look. I think, and we know we rode our luck somewhat in the first game. It feels like an absolute age ago that first game, but
and Pope made some great saves as well, didn't he? So
Pope made some great saves. So I think we definitely rode our luck. It's obviously a different story in this game. At St James's, they shouldn't be having the dominance they did at the San Siro. But yeah, they've definitely got players that we need to be wary of, and ones who we are very familiar with from their Premier League days.
I think we've learned quite fast as well about how to play in the big occasions since that first game. Like, it was such a huge game for us, really, and that whole squad of, like, most of them never played Champions League football. It was the first game in the Champions League away from home, San Siro. This is now like they're so used to it, and they've not really had to think about anything except play a game, and there've been some massive games recently. So I think mentally we should be in a way better place than we were for the away game. But yeah, I mean, it was a really tough game against them away from home. Can you see them having the mentality though to really push for those, because they're kind of in the same position as us, right, in terms of they need Dortmund to win if they're to get through, and otherwise they're looking at Europa League. So, do you think, like, if the kind of scores coming through and it's looking like we're going to get the winner's going to get Europa League rather than Champions League, do you think they'll have the mentality to really push for it, or do you think they'll just be like, we're going to get beat here, so let's just give in?
I think they should have I mean, if I was a Milan fan, I would be hoping the team has a nothing to lose approach to it, because they're bottom of the group right now and they're, heading out of Europe completely. So you'd want their team to be just, right, let's just go for it. And, and just throw everything forward and be as attacking as possible. But yeah, obviously that would lead them to being open a bit, but they have to go for it, simply. So yeah, that's what kind of, I'm sure Eddie will be thinking that, and we'll hopefully try and catch them on the counter if they're going to be coming at us a bit. But yeah, they have to. They just simply have to do that. Like, there's no point in them trying to play a slower game and look for one or two opportunities. I think they have to just go for it, and hopefully that just plays into our hands.
See, I've just been thinking there, like, do you reckon it's a bit dangerous on our part that we could get a Europa spot if we draw? Because a draw's not good enough for them. If they draw, they're out. They're finishing bottom. So they have to win. Yeah. There's no two ways about it. If we're drawing late on, like, do you reckon there's potential we shut up shop and be like, right, well, we're finishing third, like, we don't want to, like, go all attack to try and finish second or whatever, and then concede on the counter attack and finish bottom of the group? It's a weird dynamic, especially if, like, we're hearing, like, I don't know, PSG are winning anyways. So PSG are, say, like, a couple of goals up already in their game, and they're looking like, right, well, if we score, it doesn't matter, we'll still finish third. So they have to, like, it's got to be a weird dynamic, because there's so many permutations that can happen that it might have that feel of that, like, second leg of a tie where a draw's good enough at a certain point. So that's always a dangerous thing to do, like, accept the draw almost.
Oh yeah, totally.
I would take that either, to be fair.
Well, yeah, I don't know. This is it. This is where he's gonna have to, like, the game is gonna be managed, like, in such a strange way. Like, it's this because of everything that's going on in other games and everything else. So, like, yeah, we could just see ourselves, like, switch completely up, like, dependent, and then we know where our, like, real, like, obvious direction is. I think you'd like to think Eddie was going into this game thinking, yeah, we want to keep ourselves in the Champions League. I don't want him to think that.
Oh no, there's no doubt about the game.
Yeah, he's not playing for a draw. I hope not, at least, like, and trying to, like, keep the Europa solid. So
I'm just talking about, like, late on, say if it's like 80 minutes, we're drawn, and then PSG is already 2 or 3-0 up, and does he then bring on another defender? Like,
I'd be interested to know if he has somebody watching the other game. Like,
of course he will. He leaves no stone unturned.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if he'd be more, because he's such a mentality monster of, like, we play to win. Then he's not tempted. He's not, like, tempted to play for the draw at all. Then is he? So, like, if he just doesn't know the result of the other game and just plays as if he has to win.
But then if we're going all out, like, to attack and get caught on the counter and fuck up a Europa spot, you'd be getting called naive and everything. So it's a funny one.
Yeah, that's gonna be so interesting to, like, just watch how him and Tyndall, like, try and work their way through, like, tactically in this game. That's gonna be just as fascinating as what we've seen on the pitch as well. Like, just with everything happening, it's been such a long time where we've been in this position where we have to, like, be looking at other scores and hoping things go our way and things like that. So yeah, just adds an extra bit of tension and dynamic to the. The thing is, like at St James's, you'd know when something like, as much as the signal's crap and you can barely like get on the internet to find out any results in the ground, but somebody in the ground hears something. I remember being at the game when we came up from the Championship with Rafa, and last game of the season, and we heard that Villa had equalised against Brighton and that we were going to be going up as champions, and it just rippled around the ground. Like, and there'll be moments in the game where we'll hear those ripples of people like who've heard there's a goal in Germany, and you'll be able to tell which way it's gone just by the reaction of everybody, and that just makes the whole occasion just feel that bit more special again, like, because just anything could happen in the 90 minutes.
I think that'll affect the crowd as well, though. Like, if Dortmund are winning, and like you're hearing the goals coming through, like they're like 2-0 up, maybe 3-0 up, like it's gonna proper bring the crowd up.
Yeah.
But if it goes the other way, it could make the crowd go a bit flat, which would be the worst thing for us.
Because I don't put it past Newcastle fans for not understanding the permutations. So you can imagine, like, PSG could go 1 or 2 up, and people are like, well, fuck it, like we're fucked in.
Yeah.
But it can have an effect, and it probably would, especially if Dortmund took the lead, because that would get the crowd going even more. Like, we've got a chance here, lads. Like, that's probably the best thing that can happen. That's in James Park. You know, the atmosphere can sometimes take a while to get going, but if there's an early goal in Dortmund for them, that'll probably do the world of good for the 12th man at St James's Park as well.
Yeah, and I reckon, even if, say, Eddie does like try and not let the scores come through to the players, I think they'll know from the crowd, of course they will, if Dortmund are ahead. So,
because the whole crowd will cheer when now it's happening on the pitch.
Yeah. I can imagine like Trippier going over for a corner as well and asking like, "What's the score?"
People are shouting,
let's have some predictions for the game then. It's like obviously a really tough one to call. We've just been saying there's so many like different things that are going to affect it compared to a normal game. But what you thinking ahead of this one? I've got to be honest. Like, since we've been talking, I've got a little bit more nervous. So I'm like, I'm almost thinking a draw now. I'm thinking it could be like 1-1. I'm going to say 1-1.
Ooh. Yeah. After all the talk of me being pessimistic, and then if I don't live up to that, no, I'm going to be optimistic, and I will say it's going to be 2-1 win. But are we doing a double prediction here? Are we going to predict what's going to be happen in the Dortmund PSG game?
Oh,
if you want.
I will say it'll be a draw out in Germany. So, yeah, that would send us through.
Give us a score then.
I'm gonna go 2-2.
Yo.
Desmond.
Well, I'm going to go one better and say we're going to win 3-1. It'll be like, we'll seem like we're hanging on near the end, 2-1 up, and then it'll be like a Fabian Shaw moment against PSG where we'll score like 5 minutes to go, and then the crowd will go fucking ballistic. Called it here first, and Dortmund are going to be 2-1 up at this point anyway, so it doesn't matter. So we'll go through.
So yeah, well, I think Dortmund will win as well. I think they'll win 2-0. But obviously, I'm predicting a draw for us, so it doesn't really matter. Let's talk Fulham then, because we've got straight after that, we've we've got the turnaround for the Fulham game, and they're in like a bit of form.
A bit of form
right now, surprisingly.
Very good
understatement
form.
of the end.
Yeah. Although it is home form, but like let's just correct that. They are banging in goals.
What's the away record like? I'm guessing not as bad as ours.
They should have beat fucking Liverpool a few weeks ago now.
Well, yeah.
Obviously lost 4-3 in the end then.
There's that, but yeah, I think their away form's not particularly great. I mean, they couldn't score goals for Love Nor Money like after before the Wolves game. They were really struggling for goals, and then managed to score 3 goals and a 3-2 win in that one, and then since gone on to score 3 goals away at Anfield. They've won 5-0 against Forest and another 5-0 against West Ham, which
that's worrying.
Not many people would have expected them to be plundering that many goals, especially even against West Ham, who had just gone to Spurs and sneaked a win there. So yeah, it's one of them worrying ones where you've got again another informed team like that we're coming up against in the league, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. It depends. Yeah, because if as we predicted, or at least me and Dawson have predicted, like we're coming into it on an absolute high, after getting through into the next round of the Champions League at home. Only a few days after, crowd will be still on buzzing, and that could play a factor and see the lads over the line, even if they are knackered after the Milan game. But yeah, it's a tough one because of how good a form Fulham are in, and yeah, they've climbed the table and they're back sort of towards sort of mid-table, pushing for maybe up into the top half.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because they're in great form, we're in terrible form, and if Wednesday doesn't go our way, and that's 3 defeats in a row, for example, the change in atmosphere, we'll be nervous. The crowd won't be good. 3:00 kickoff. It won't be raucous from minute 1. We'll be thinking oh well, we really need to get a win here, and we'll start getting touchy very early on if we don't get an early goal. And we cannot afford to do that, and especially when Fulham are playing so well. Just need to just chill out and trust the players. But yeah, there's some players in fine form for them, like Iwobi, Jimenez is banging in goals, finally, first time since his head injury where he's actually coming into some kind of form. It's it just seems to be clicking for them at the moment, and it should be a tasty game. But I keep saying it, at St James's Park, we'll play completely differently. We're on the front foot. The crowd will be there. I've always fancied against anyone in any form. I think we can give them a good game. I don't think we're the type of team who'll just roll over at home. I think we should have enough to get the better of them. Even despite the injuries, the fatigue, the form. So yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess.
I wonder if we'll have any more injuries coming back, at least to the bench by then. I know it's only 1 week on since the Spurs game. And interestingly, I think it was after the Spurs game, Eddie Howe got asked about Harvey Barnes, and he said he's not not going to be fit. So
it's almost if Twitter and ITKs have no fucking idea.
I know, yeah. I heard he was getting his hair cut, and he told the barber he'd be back in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks ago. Which obviously a load of shite.
Oh god,
it's a strange one though. It's so frustrating with him because of it just being a toe injury, innit? So, it must be so frustrating from I'm hoping at least with him he's been able to keep his fitness up. Like, he can do stuff that's not impacting his toe, so that when he comes back, he's got that physical fitness at least. But anyway, whether we've got any more coming back, I don't know. But we're obviously going to see some changes against Fulham because Trippier's suspended. You'd imagine Livramento on the right and Lewis Hall on the left, which I think it'll be good for Lewis Hall because Eddie got asked as well after the Spurs game about Hall and why he's not really being given a chance. And he basically just said because Livramento's been playing so well, when he comes on, he needs to play well. Which I kind of took to mean that Eddie kind of felt like when he's been coming on, he hasn't thought he's been playing very well. Which, to be fair, he didn't look great when he came on against Spurs, but it was kind of like a bad time to come on. And for some reason, he seemed like he was in centre-half for some of it.
He's had so few minutes as well. He's never really had the time to get going.
And he scored that class goal in the Cup, didn't he? So I think it'll be good for him to start a Premier League game. So that he's in it from the start. But again, we're asking a lot of the likes of Fabian Schär, even Lascelles now. I think he's played. He'll be 12 on the bounce by then. Touch wood, he's still fit. And yeah, we'll probably see, I think, Longstaff and Wilson starting that one just to mix the team up a bit and get them back in. Hopefully they're at 100% fitness by then. So as much as it will be a tough game, it'll be a positive if we do start to see these players come back. And obviously it's a suspension, but it allows Trippier to have a rest, which will be good for him. And we'll know our European fate by then, so it could be mentally really tough if we have crashed out of Europe altogether. But then at least we know we've not got as many games moving forward. Which would be a relief to the medical team at least. Or
no, they'll be making loads of overtime money at the moment. Fucking rolling in before Christmas. 60-hour weeks at least.
Oh yeah. They probably got Shola fucking giving massages or that fucking trapped.
Fucking now.
Well, this is where the magic happens.
Got his apple in hand.
Livramento and Lewis Hall coming in, it's like a given. Do you not think there's a chance that Kraft goes right back and Livramento stays left if he doesn't particularly trust Hall?
Yeah, I mean he brought Kraft on, didn't he? So potentially.
Yeah, I'd have thought maybe Kraft.
Yeah, he's played him before. Before his injury, he wasn't looking too bad, to be honest, when he's filled in for Trippier. So maybe he's got that trust in him a little bit more that he can play how he wants him to play. Or I don't know. But obviously Lewis Hall isn't quite
it seems like Eddie Howe definitely has a thing about trust. He really needs to trust a player before he'll let them get minutes, especially from the start. So you could be right in that, but I'm really hoping we do see Hall because I feel like he's got it. He just needs to be given the chance to prove it. And we saw what happened with Livramento, but it's tough to know because obviously we don't know what he's doing in training, and obviously Livramento is further ahead. He's a bit older. He played way more Premier League games, so it's a bit easier to get him into starting lineup. But do you think what would you prefer to do? Because at least Livramento would then be playing on his favourite side, and Hall be playing in his favourite position. Whereas I know he's been playing well, but Livramento is technically playing out of position, and then Kraft's coming in at right back.
Well, we still don't know.
It doesn't give us a lot going forward, does it?
No, but I think even back to Lewis Hall, we still don't fully know if that is his favoured position. He has played there for Chelsea and for us since he's come here, but he has also played in other positions for Chelsea and England youth teams as well. So
I think Eddie Howe has said though he sees him as a left back. Well, he was asked whether he could play in centre mid and stuff, and he said he's been brought in as a left back.
Well then, he needs to get his opportunity to have a good run at it. And I would not sure exactly if the Fulham game is that right opportunity. I would still like Kraft to come in just to bit more experience. And yeah, feel like Kraft as well. He's had such a hard time of things, especially when he first came in. Just an opportunity for him to step in and hopefully have a good game, and that would be the preferred move for me. He had a really good game against Man U, playing out of position. So yeah, I would trust in Kraft to come in and do that. But yeah, also equally happy to see Lewis Hall get a chance. And yeah, it would be nice to have Eddie having a bit of a selection dilemma with players at some point.
Nice of you to sit on the fence there, Thomas.
Well, if I'm gonna plump for one, I would say go for Kraft to start, and because Livramento has been solid as a left back and had some really good games in that position in the last few games, bar a couple of the dodgy ones against Everton and Spurs. But yeah, I would say keep Livramento on the left and then bring Kraft in on the right.
So yeah, I'd probably start Hall just because he's the future. Like, he's probably our future left back going forward. That's why we're buying him. So just blood him now. Like, we need him. It's not fuck about. Like, Kraft probably isn't part of the future of this football club for too much longer. He's a solid enough backup right back, but now he's third choice behind Livramento and Trips. Like, his injury record's not great. He's had a few bad ones. So I could see him moving on fairly soon, if not in January in the summer, because I think if we're going to have a player like clogging up a squad like that, they need to be a bit more reliable, more than anyone else. So I know Lewis Hall hasn't had many minutes, but I'd be tempted just to hire him in. He's young, give him some minutes. We should be on the front foot. We should have the majority of the ball at home, where technically we know he's a very good player. So yeah, give him a chance. This is a good opportunity with Trippier out for a game, just to start him, give him 90 minutes. And then obviously Trippier comes back in and Livramento will come back to left back in the following game against Chelsea. Well, depending on how strong we'll go in the cup, I guess.
That's the other thing as well, though. Like, I feel like if Hall comes in and he plays really well, there's a chance he keeps his spot. Whereas if Kraft comes in and he plays really well, oh no, well, yeah, that's true. But well, yeah, I guess then, yeah, he's he's then pushed back to the bench, and then if Livramento comes back and plays well again, then he's not getting a run of games, is he? So I was going to say, if Kraft coming in, he's going straight back out as soon as Trippier has fit.
Yeah.
So at least with Hall, you're giving someone who could potentially force his way into the team. But I agree that Kraft's, I think this will be his last season. I think he's probably great to have around the club and stuff like that, but we need more than that now. He's still international player and everything, experience. Seems like a great guy, and does do a decent job when he comes in, but he can't really go forward. So he's not going to the balance on that. How do you think Eddie's going to approach that with Trippier being out? Because we haven't seen this for a long time, and he was actually asked after the Spurs game about how much we'll miss him, and he said he's our main attacking threat. He's the one who obviously he's got the most assists or whatever. So how are we going to approach the game without him?
We're giving Miggy less of the ball, hopefully. There's a few poor finishes in the last two games from him. No, I think, as you're saying, it should give a bit more balance. Like, if we can have Hall and Tino there, they've got the correct feet on the correct sides, and we can maybe get Gordon involved a little bit more. And to be honest, in the build-up play, it wouldn't harm in getting sort of Joelinton, Gordon, Hall, trying to play the similar kind of triangles that we do on the right with the likes of Trippier, Longstaff, Miggy, or even Miley in recent games. So again, it's a forced opportunity, but it's given an opportunity just to give her a little look of something else, and I'm all for it. We used to have Dan Burn there, who you might make a dart or two upfield every game, but he's not an attacking player at all. Like, he usually drops into the back three when Trippier's away up the halfway line. So once again, like, Byrne, we know he's not going to be the future. Like, he's the most unnatural left back you've ever seen. But yeah, like, I think I'd be looking forward to Fulham game to see what we've got if we're starting these two.
Yeah,
just about, like, just turned in the 20s, I think. Do you know, like, young players, give them a chance. Let's go. Botman back in as well.
yeah. One thing actually that we haven't kind of mentioned is that Joe Linton went like left forward towards the end of the Spurs game and looked good. Gave us something different on that side, and obviously got his goal. So there's every chance with Longstaff being back that Joe Linton goes out wide and you rest someone like Miggy, Gordon goes over that side, or even rest Gordon. So, like, the fact that he's a versatile player, Joe Linton, does kind of, just with Longstaff coming back, give us more options there as well. We can eventually give the wingers some rest if we wanted to, give the centre mids a rest if we want to. The forwards can have a rest if they want to. It's only really now the centre backs and, well, goalkeeper situations is what it is. But unless we do play Kraft at centre half or Paul Dummett or Alex Murphy come in, but I can't see that happening. So yeah, I think the Fulham game, as much as it's going to be a tough game because of the form they're in, I think we can use it for a bit of rotation, which will be nice to see after like all this time. So, just touching on Fulham though, where do you see their main threats? Because obviously, like we're saying, their away form's not as good, but in that Liverpool game, they scored 3 goals against them, didn't they? And that was away from home, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I watched the game against Wolves. I watched the full 90 of that. It was last week or something. It was, but yeah, they can get at them. Obviously, there was a couple of like sloppy goals they gave away in that game, but Harry Wilson, he was quality when he came on. Tom Kearney, like, he's a local lad I'm pretty sure he's a supporter of Newcastle, and he is brilliant in the midfield, just a right engine in there. And yeah, the forwards, as mentioned, Jimenez, especially in the last couple of games, is got his shooting boots again. Iwobi looks like a player reborn again. So yeah, and Anthony Robinson. I was singing Anthony Robinson's praises in that game, thinking that he could be a real player for us. Maybe as another long term left back option if we did want to dive into the market. I really thought he had a good game and has been pretty solid for Fulham. He could be a threat getting down the flanks, overlapping and putting in some good crosses. So yeah, there's definitely players there that are good and in form, and look, they're a team that I don't think ever really looked in danger of getting dragged into a relegation battle. They look like one of those sides that are going to be set for another mid-table finish. But yeah, with that, there's obviously players there that we should be better than and have the better of in the game.
Yeah, like, as you're saying, they've got so many options going forward. It's not going to be an easy game, and I think the way that Miggy's looked in the last few games, he's looked a bit leggy when usually he's got energy for days. He's like a fidget spinner, like, you just wind him up and he just fucking goes constantly. That's a game where if we are still leggy after the Paris game, we need energy to track Robinson back, because otherwise, if you're getting, well, Kraft or Tino or whoever comes in doubled up on, like, there's going to be problems. We've had problems there in the last couple of games. with Trippier getting done by one-on-ones. So I think that's where we need to be looking out on, and maybe that's where Longstaff does need to come in, like bring him back in against Fulham to sort of help out on that side. But yeah, Jimenez coming back and being in good form is not ideal. But you'd think that his style of play would suit our centre-backs. So fingers crossed we can keep him under wraps for the 90 minutes, I guess.
They've got Carabao Cup game as well, don't they? So I wonder if that'll play into there, because you'd imagine Fulham, that would take priority over the Premier League, because they're not, as you say, they're not in a relegation battle or anything. They're probably not pushing for Europe. So, if I was a Fulham fan, I'd be wanting a cup run for sure. So they've got to go away to Everton, which at the minute, well, I mean, we know that's a tough game. So
yeah,
not ideal.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll have one eye on that. I mean, we're in the same situation and we've just come out with AC, but yeah, if they rest some players, it would be good for us. And yeah, them 2 5-0s, man. Like, especially the one against West Ham.
Yeah.
That's what worries you. It's like, yeah, they scored 5, but they've also kept a clean sheet in the last 2 games. So
That's what 5-0 means,
you were saying that they can you can get at them and stuff, but recently they've shut up shop. So yeah, it's a tough one, but let's give some predictions then. What do you think the score's going to be in that one? Fulham come to St James's Park.
I'll go first this one. I reckon we'll win 2-1. I think, yeah, like, we're shuffling the pack of the bag a little bit. They'll probably get a chance or two. Dubravka still not particularly confident in, so yeah, I'm going to go with 2-1.
It's another interesting one because it's a game sandwiched between, 2 massive cup games, and obviously we'll see how Eddie and the board really think about the Carabao Cup in terms of the team we put out against Chelsea a few days later. I obviously really want us to go for that cup and think that we've got a real good chance of winning that. So with that in mind, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna go 1-1. I'm gonna think that we'll draw this game. Yeah.
Oof. Well, I'm going to say 3-2. I think we'll be leaky at the back, but I feel like Wilson's going to come back in and bag a brace. He's obviously not going to get a hat-trick anytime. So.
Callum, not Harry Wright.
Yeah, Callum.
Yeah.
And yeah, that we might see like somebody like Joe Linton get another one. So I reckon there'll be goals in it for us, but there'll be goals in it for them. But yeah, we'll just edge it with it being the home game. And yeah, I mean, looking at that, we're fairly positive in them predictions. So obviously the big game is the AC Milan game, which could see us into the next round of the knockout stages of the Champions League. It could see us fall into Europa League and extend our European run that way, and it could see us crash out of Europe altogether from the group of death. But it's all still up in the air, and a win means we keep Europe, so it's going to be a huge game. You're both there, very jealous. I imagine it's probably going to be the best atmosphere of the season so far, as long as things are going our way in the Dortmund game. But yeah, we'll be back after it, and we'll know the fate of Newcastle United in Europe. Do go ahead and follow us on podcast platforms. Give us a rating. 5-star rating really helps us out. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when we're back. And follow us on social media, to keep in touch with us and send us your opinions on what you think the scores are going to be and what the rest of the season is going to look like for Europe and the Carabao Cup. And yeah, we'll be back to preview that Chelsea game hopefully, and if not, we'll be back after the Chelsea game. But either way, we'll catch you in the next one.
Wanna hear you go.